Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated clearly how the world is ill-prepared for unforeseen risks. Governments, companies, and civil society worldwide did not factor the possibility of a pandemic in their risk plans in 2019. It's generally accepted, though, that it is prudent to plan for any eventuality. Many organizations today undertake risk analysis. So what are the current trends? What, for example, do South Africans think are the biggest risks that we should be planning for? Santam's insurance barometer has revealed what's keeping South Africans awake at night. Let's discuss their findings now with the short-term insurers, Andrew Coutts. Andrew, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Now, globally, if I may begin there, I mean, you guys specialize in risk as an insurer, assessing things. If I can start globally, is there a new understanding today, because of COVID-19, but the importance of risk analysis compared to before?
Yes, Dan, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. We have learned some important lessons. We didn't see COVID-19. We weren't well prepared as an industry for the scale of what we're calling now a black swan event. And so going forward, we will be wiser. We're asking ourselves a lot of questions as the industry, what would happen if there were major events like that going forward. What we've learned is that an insurance policy alone can never take responsibility to pay claims for something that impacts everybody at the same time. So COVID-19 impacted the world all at the same time. The general principle of insurance is you create a pool from everybody to fund the risk of the few. So when you have this global event happening, insurance alone is not enough. We need risk management. We need other mechanisms to help sustain the risk. Absolutely.
Yeah, but for you to be able to provide adequate cover, there has to be certain assumptions that are made, and those are made by everybody else. Are you getting a sense that, for example, there is an understanding that people should sit around and imagine the worst possible black swan event, and that will help you in how you factor it in providing adequate cover?
Absolutely. So it's a very good conversation, and cyber is probably the one that we must really look at most now. So we've seen some reports coming out of the US. We're seeing that the average money being taken out of our system through some form of hacking event is now up to $1.5 trillion. Now that equates to 5 times on average what the US spends on events like hurricanes and catastrophes, weather-related events. That just gives you the size of cyber. Yet we're not necessarily responding well enough to protect ourselves against cyber events, data protection, backups, etc. So there's a great example of making sure we're ready for something new going forward.
Yeah. Now, in South Africa, you, as Santam, you've done a barometer, I think it was in 2019, and you've got some latest trends. I would be fascinated, top of mind of South Africans, risk-wise, what's keeping us awake?
Yeah, so number one, the economy came back from the research as being the dominant thing, a slow growth of the economy. And something that wasn't there at all was obviously the pandemic. We didn't see that in 2019. Risk came through. And then social unrest. Everything that we've seen with the riots in KZN and parts of Gauteng, SASRIA's response there too, obviously making a big difference for consumers and clients on the ground. But those are the things coming through. From an insurance perspective, you can't forget about weather. Weather is obviously a big factor, flood, hail, drought for our farmers, always a big risk that has to be managed. And I think those were the ones that really dominated the consumer psyche.
Now, when you talk weather, I think climate change. I mean, every time now you open an international news channel or our own eNCA here, you hear about a flood, a cyclone. I mean, we saw Cyclone Idai recently that devastated the second largest city of Mozambique, Beira, and made its way of destruction all the way to us. Are we factoring those kind of things enough? Are they top of mind enough in terms of your clients and what your research has showed you?
Yes, so weather-related events are being carefully considered. We reinsure a lot of those risks, these global reinsurance pools that help manage these huge spikes that come through. And the benefit of a weather event is it will happen in the US, then it will happen in Australia, then we might have an event here. So you get this spreading the risk on a global basis. So a huge amount of this capacity managed through central reinsurers. But there's no doubt also in the South African context, we have a big urbanization drive beginning to happen. And that means that the advent of a weather event can have a far bigger impact, in terms of just more people in concentrated areas. So these things, they're being modeled, we understand them, but it's making insurance more expensive if you just want to transfer the risk. So you see a lot of insurers also doing things like weather alerts, take your car away, put it in the garage, all these kind of things. Working between a client and a broker and an insurer to try and prevent risk is becoming a critical part of what we need to do going forward.
You know, Andrew, a couple of weeks ago, we had a tremor in Gauteng, and I started to wonder, with us being a mining province and we have one tremor, what if one day we have a number of tremors that they just meet and decide to cause havoc, to create an earthquake kind of scenario? And I think, was it last year when there was also some earth tremor in the Western Cape? And we always say that South Africa is not on the fourth line, but we've got the Rift Valley just north of us, all the way to the northern part of Mozambique. I mean, those kind of risks, I mean, they are real in today's world. We can't ignore them in planning. Are we planning properly?
No, and the ability to sense and respond to changing risks is what the industry now needs to be forever better at. Our regulators, our clients, ourselves, we have to have learned from what we experienced in COVID-19 and be back better. But something like an earthquake is in fact one that we have considered over time. So I think earthquake is a well understood risk. It's well defined in our policies. So typically something like that will be very well covered. It's those unforeseen, almost non-damage extensions that have caused us. Cyber, pandemics, grid failures, you can think of a number of them. Those are the kind of things that we actually got to worry about.
Yeah, I was fascinating. You mentioned economy is top of mind for South Africans, and then the unrest. I guess the unrest we saw has heightened political risk in terms of analyzing our situation. But I want to put you on the spot, Andrew, before I let you go. If there is one risk that you think in the medium to short term, let's say for the next 5 years, could come into being and affect us badly, of those that you have found with your Santam insurance barometer, that the South Africans have told you about being the top ones, which one of them would likely play itself out, would likely occur?
Dan, it's in my mind, it's got to be cyber. We've seen so much of the shift to work from home. Our stats on the barometer show that in corporates, it's 55% have completely shifted their workforces and still off. But very few of them actually updated the insurance policies for the change in risk. We had 9% of our clients reporting some form of cyber event in the last 24 months, particularly working from home. So if you've moved your business, moved your staff from home and haven't updated your firewalls, your security, your backup processes, you are fundamentally more exposed than ever before. When banks became prevalent, bank robbers made lots of money. Cyber is now becoming prevalent, but we haven't completely got our grips around that. There's the reports are suggesting 75 billion connected devices by 2025. The opportunity for fraud around that space is huge. We've got to make sure that we prevent new data security, have proper backups, secure our data, and then, as much as you can, reinsure it or insure it to protect yourselves through a major cyber event. That would be our advice.
Yeah, and cyber is in my hand as well. I mean, it's in our devices. It's not just that big computer in a control room somewhere at eNCA or another company. We walk with cyber in our hands, so we need to protect ourselves. Thank you very much for answering that question. Andrew Coutts, he's of course the head of intermediated business from Santam.